Late evening rain had been falling for hours, turning every street into a shimmering mirror of water and lights. The city was quiet, the kind of quiet that only heavy rain can bring. Most people were warm inside their homes, drinking tea or scrolling on their phones. But one person was still out there in the cold. He worked as a janitor for a small company near the edge of town, and his shift often ended late. He did not complain much. He was used to long nights and tired feet. For him, earning an honest living was more important than comfort. He walked slowly under the weak glow of the street lamps, his warm jacket soaked through, his shoes squishing with every step. The rain made the whole world feel lonely, but he had learned to live with that kind of feeling. The road he took every night was mostly empty, lined with old warehouses, parking lots, and a few small shops that closed early. There was nothing exciting about it, nothing worth remembering. At least, that's what he believed. On this night, however, something felt different. He could not explain why. Maybe it was the strange coldness in the air, or the way the rain seemed heavier than usual. Or maybe it was simply instinct, the human sense that something unseen was watching. Whatever it was, he found himself glancing around more than normal as he walked. The wind howled through the empty street, and the rain stung his face. He held his bag close to his chest, trying to protect the few things inside his food container, his uniform shirt, a tiny flashlight, and an old phone. He planned to go straight home, take a warm shower, and rest. But right as he stepped onto a small side road leading toward the bus stop, he heard something unusual. It wasn't a car engine, a dog bark, or even the sound of something falling. It was different, deep, rough, almost like a low growl mixed with pain. He stopped immediately. His heart jumped a little, not from fear but from surprise. The sound came again, louder this time, echoing strangely through the rain. He turned his head toward the dark alley behind one of the warehouses. The alley was narrow, shadowy, and usually filled with metal crates and trash bins. He had never seen a person or even an animal there before. But tonight, the strange noise was coming exactly from that direction. He took a step closer. The alley smelled of wet metal and old garbage, but something else was mixed in, something sharp and unfamiliar, like burnt air. He felt a shiver run down his spine, yet he kept moving. He had always been someone who found it hard to ignore someone in trouble, even a wounded animal. He couldn't just walk away. As he reached the end of the alley, he saw something lying on the ground. At first, he thought it was a large animal, maybe a horse or a cow that somehow wandered into the city. But the closer he walked, the more his eyes adjusted to the dark, and the more he realized he was wrong. Very wrong. The creature was enormous, covered in smooth scales that glimmered faintly under the dim light. A long tail curled weakly beside it, and one large wing lay folded awkwardly, almost touching a broken trash bin. Its leg, if he could call it, was bent at a strange angle, and the creature was breathing slowly and heavily, as though every breath hurt. He froze. There was only one thing this could be. It looked exactly like the kind of creature people saw in movies or read about in legends. It was a dragon. Not a cartoonish one, but a real living being. Its body rose and fell with each strained breath. Steam drifted from its nostrils every time it exhaled, mixing with the cold rain. Even injured, it looked powerful, ancient, and mysterious. He stood completely still. His mind raced in 1,000 directions at once. Part of him wanted to run. Another part wanted to reach out and help. And yet another part wondered if he was dreaming. He blinked several times, wiped rain from his eyes, and looked again. The dragon did not disappear. The creature made another low, pained sound. This time, it turned its head slightly, revealing a large eye that opened slowly. The eye glowed faintly, like a dim piece of burning coal. It wasn't full of anger or rage. It looked tired, hurt, scared, That was the moment something inside him changed. All the fear and shock inside him softened. The creature was in pain, alone in the rain, far from whatever place it belonged. And he was the only one around. If he didn't help, nobody would. He took a slow step forward, hands raised slightly to show he meant no harm. The dragon's eye followed him carefully. He spoke softly, though he had no idea if the creature understood. He simply felt that silence would make things worse. "It's okay," he whispered. "I won't hurt you." The dragon didn't move, but the tension in its body eased just a little. He felt a strange wave of calm, as if the creature somehow sensed his intentions. He knelt down a few feet away, studying the injured leg. The limb was swollen, bent unnaturally, and scratched in several places. The scales nearby looked damaged, and a faint blue liquid, something like blood, had dried along the edges. He didn't know what caused the injury, but it was clear the dragon couldn't walk. The rain kept falling harder, and the dragon trembled slightly. It must have been freezing. The janitor looked around the alley, searching for anything that could help. His hands were shaking, not only from the cold, but from the strange reality of the situation. Helping a wounded human or animal was one thing, but a dragon. Still, he could not leave it there. He searched the area and found a large old tarp lying near a pile of crates. It was dirty and warm, but thick enough to block some of the rain. He dragged it over and carefully spread it on top of the dragon, covering its body while avoiding the injured leg. The creature made a soft sound, almost like a sigh, as if the warmth brought relief. "You're going to be okay," he said gently, though he wasn't sure if he believed his own words. "Just hang in there." He removed his own jacket, even though he was already cold, and placed it over the dragon's front leg, the part where the scales looked the most damaged. It wasn't much, but it felt wrong to keep his jacket when the creature was shivering. The dragon turned its head again, looking at him with a slow blink. The expression in its eye changed, no longer just pain or fear. There was a hint of recognition, maybe even gratitude. As if the dragon understood exactly what he was doing, the janitor sat down beside the creature, ignoring the rain soaking through his clothes. He didn't know what would happen next. He didn't know if more dragons were nearby, or if someone would suddenly walk into the alley and see them. He didn't even know if he was in danger, but somehow, sitting next to the giant creature felt strangely peaceful. He felt no threat or darkness from it, only exhaustion, loneliness, and a silent request for help. He wondered where the dragon had come from. Did it fall from the sky? Was it lost? Was it running from something? Or was it from a different world entirely? Every possibility felt unbelievable, yet none felt impossible. The dragon shifted slightly, bringing its head closer to him. Its breath was warm, raising steam in the cold air. He stayed still, letting the creature adjust. Up close, he could see tiny patterns in the scales, like natural markings that glowed faintly under the rain. For a moment, he simply watched it breathe. The slow rise and fall of its chest. The way its nostrils released tiny clouds of warm mist. The way the faint glow of its eyes dimmed and brightened gently. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of purpose. Like he was meant to be here at this exact moment. Minutes passed, maybe longer. The world felt quiet, as if the rain itself softened out of respect for the creature resting in the alley dot. And then, something remarkable happened. The dragon lifted its good wing and placed it gently, almost protectively, beside him. Not on him, not to trap him, just near him. As if the creature was acknowledging him, accepting him, maybe even trusting him. He swallowed hard, overwhelmed by the strange, emotional weight of the moment. In that dark, rainy alley, a tired human janitor and a wounded alien dragon sat side by side, two lonely beings who had crossed paths by pure chance. He didn't know it yet. But this night would change his life forever. The rain didn't stop. It kept falling, steady and cold, making the streets shine like glass under the dim streetlights. The janitor had never felt such a heavy, persistent rain in his life. His clothes were soaked, sticking to his body, and the chill ran through his bones. Yet the thought of the injured creature waiting for him back in the alley pushed him forward. He could not let fear or discomfort stop him. Something about the way it had limped, struggling with every step, had touched something deep inside him. When he finally returned to the alley, the scene was both sad and strange. The dragon, though still large and imposing, looked almost small in its pain. Its scales shimmered in the wet light, dark and metallic, reflecting the rain in tiny flickers. One leg, the front left, was clearly broken. It rested on the wet concrete awkwardly, and every slight movement caused a visible shudder to pass through its massive body. The janitor swallowed hard. He had never expected to deal with something so otherworldly, and yet here it was, needing him. The dragon looked at him with eyes that were both intelligent and desperate. They were not the eyes of a normal animal. They were deep, almost human-like, filled with a strange mix of fear and trust. Somehow, the janitor understood that if he turned away now, the dragon might not survive the night. Despite the danger, he knew he had to act. He walked slowly toward it, keeping his voice low and calm. "Hey, it's okay. I'm here to help," he said softly. His words sounded ridiculous even to him, but the dragon seemed to react, tilting its head slightly, watching him carefully. The janitor crouched down, not too close, just enough to appear non-threatening. He remembered reading somewhere that injured animals often needed calm voices and slow movements. Even if this was not an ordinary animal, he decided to treat it like one. The dragon gave a low, rumbling sound, almost like a cough or groan. Its chest rose and fell rapidly, and the janitor realized that it was struggling to breathe comfortably. He had never seen anything like this in his life. He had cleaned up spills, fixed broken equipment, and even dealt with emergencies in the building before, but nothing had prepared him for tending to an alien creature in pain. His heart pounded, but he forced himself to focus. First things first, he needed to keep it still and comfortable. He looked around quickly. The alley was narrow, littered with trash cans and old cardboard boxes. The rainwater formed small puddles on the ground, making the place even colder. He grabbed an old tarp from a nearby stack and shook it out, trying to create some kind of dry surface. Then he gently approached the dragon again. "I'm going to cover you. It'll keep you dry, okay?" he murmured. The dragon didn't resist. It seemed exhausted, its body trembling with fatigue and pain. Carefully, he draped the tarp over the dragon's back. The creature flinched at first, but then relaxed a little. The janitor could feel its body shiver under the fabric, not from fear but from cold. He wished he could do more. In that moment, he thought about all the animals he had helped over the years, injured cats, birds with broken wings, but nothing had been this serious. This was something different. This was a living being from somewhere else entirely, and it trusted him enough to stay still. The janitor knew he needed to do more than just cover it. He had to stop the pain somehow, at least temporarily. But he had no medicine, no bandages, nothing familiar that could help a creature like this. His mind raced. He remembered a first aid kit in the supply closet back at the building. Maybe there was something inside that could help stabilize it. The dragon was too large to move easily, but he could try to make it as comfortable as possible before bringing anything. He carefully propped some broken wooden crates around the dragon, making a kind of low barrier. It wasn't perfect, but it would prevent it from rolling over and causing more pain to its broken leg. The dragon watched every movement, its breathing uneven, but it did not try to attack. The janitor found this strange. He had expected fear, maybe aggression, but there was a calm acceptance. It was as if the dragon understood that he was trying to help. The rain continued to fall harder, bouncing off the tarp in loud, rhythmic plinks. The janitor's hands were numb from the cold, and he felt the wetness soaking through to his skin. But he didn't move away. He stayed with the dragon, whispering words he wasn't sure it could understand. "You'll be okay. Just hold on. I won't leave you." Somehow, repeating those words made him feel stronger. He had always believed in helping others, but this was a test of courage unlike any he had faced. After a few minutes, he made a decision. He had to move the dragon, even if just a little, to get it somewhere safer. He found an old tarp and ropes back at the building. Carefully, he returned with them, dragging them through the puddles. The dragon watched, its large head tilting, eyes glimmering with cautious hope. The janitor spoke softly as he worked. "We'll get you somewhere dry. I promise. You just have to trust me." Moving the dragon was not easy. Its body was heavy and awkward, and the broken leg made it unpredictable. But the janitor took it slowly, inch by inch, guiding it toward the tarp. He wrapped the ropes loosely, just enough to give support without causing more pain. Each movement made the dragon grunt softly, but it did not lash out. He realized that this creature was intelligent, almost like it understood his intentions. By the time they managed to get the dragon onto the tarp, the janitor's clothes were soaked through, his hair plastered to his forehead, and his hands stiff from cold. But the dragon, surprisingly, seemed a little more at ease. It lay there, its body still trembling but less restless. The janitor took a moment to catch his breath, looking down at the creature. Despite the fear and strangeness, he felt a connection forming. This was not just an alien being, this was a life he had the power to protect. And that responsibility gave him a strange sense of purpose. He realized the night was far from over. He still had to find a safe place, something warm and dry, where he could tend to the dragon properly. The city streets were empty and cold, the kind of night that made even the most daring people stay indoors. But he had no choice. Leaving the dragon in the alley would be like leaving it to die. He couldn't do that. Not after seeing its pain, not after feeling that silent trust. He looked up at the rain and the empty streets. He didn't know where he could go, but he knew he couldn't give up. Somehow he would find a way. He would carry this creature if he had to, drag it if necessary, but he would not abandon it. And as he stared down at the dragon's enormous, wet, trembling form, he felt a surge of determination. Something inside him had shifted. This was no longer just a strange encounter. It was a mission, a responsibility that he could not ignore. He whispered again, softly, almost as if it was a prayer. "We'll get through this. Together." A dragon's eyes met his, and for a brief moment, in the rain-soaked alley, something unspoken passed between them. It was a bond formed not through words, but through trust and care. And even though the night was cold, even though the rain was relentless, and even though the task ahead seemed impossible, the janitor felt a spark of hope that somehow they would survive this night. Somehow he would help this extraordinary creature heal. And in that quiet, wet alley, with the rain falling around them and the city sleeping, a story was beginning, a story of courage, kindness, and an unlikely friendship that would change both their lives forever. The rain had not let up, but the janitor did not stop. Every step he took was careful, each movement measured to avoid causing more pain to the dragon. The creature's weight was immense, far heavier than he had imagined, and every inch he moved, it was exhausting. His arms and back ached, and cold seeped into his bones, but he forced himself to keep going. Giving up was not an option. Not now. He looked around for somewhere safe, somewhere out of the rain and away from the occasional passerby who might scream or run if they saw him dragging what looked like a massive, injured monster through the streets. A small abandoned warehouse came to mind, just a few blocks away. It was dark and empty, but it would provide shelter from the rain, and more importantly, it was quiet. No one would disturb them there. The journey was slow. Each time the dragon shifted or groaned, he had to adjust, repositioning the tarp and ropes to give support. He tried to speak softly, using words to calm both himself and the creature. Almost there. Just a little more. You're doing great. Even though it was just him talking, it seemed to help. The dragon's eyes followed his movements, and sometimes it made a small, low rumbling sound in response, as if acknowledging him. By the time they reached the warehouse, the janitor was soaked through, shivering from both cold and exhaustion. But as he pushed the doors open and guided the dragon inside, he felt a small surge of relief. The rain no longer pelted them. The space smelled of dust and old wood, and puddles had collected on the floor from leaks in the roof. But it was better than standing in the open. It was dry mostly and quiet. He set the dragon down gently on the warehouse floor. Its body sagged with fatigue, and it let out a long, low breath, almost a sigh. The janitor knelt beside it, inspecting the injured leg again. He had no idea what bones looked like in an alien creature, but it was clearly broken. The limb was bent at an odd angle, and the dragon winced whenever he touched it lightly. He had no tools, no splints, nothing that could be considered proper medical equipment. All he had was his determination, and whatever he could improvise from the warehouse. He looked around. Old wooden planks could be used as splints, and some torn cloth from old crates could serve as bandages. It wouldn't be perfect, but it might stabilize the leg enough to prevent further damage. He started carefully, measuring the planks against the leg, holding the limb as still as he could, and wrapping it slowly. The dragon didn't resist, but it shivered at the cold touch of the wet wood. He spoke softly, trying to soothe it. I know it's uncomfortable. I'm just helping you. You'll feel better soon. After what felt like hours, the makeshift splint was in place. It was crude, but it would do for now. The dragon tested it slowly, lifting the leg a little, and then putting it back down. The pain was still there, but at least it wasn't moving uncontrollably anymore. The janitor smiled faintly, exhausted but relieved. He had never thought he would feel such pride over wrapping an alien creature's leg. Then he realized something else hunger. He had not eaten since earlier that day, and the dragon probably hadn't either. But finding food for it was a challenge. He had no idea what it ate. It didn't seem like a normal animal. It certainly didn't look like it could eat anything from a grocery store. He hesitated, then decided to try something simple. Leftover bread and water he found in a small crate at the warehouse. It was a long shot, but it might be enough to give the dragon some energy. He placed the bread and water near the dragon, keeping a careful distance. The creature sniffed the air, then looked at him with curiosity. Slowly, it leaned forward and tasted the bread. It chewed carefully, not quickly, as if it were unsure. After a few bites, it relaxed a little, lying down on its side, but still keeping its eyes on him. The janitor watched, feeling a strange mixture of relief and amazement. He had never expected to be feeding a creature from another world, and yet here he was, making sure it had the strength to survive. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the occasional rumble or shuffle from the dragon. The janitor sat nearby, tired but alert. He knew the night was far from over. Even with the legs stabilized and some food in its system, the dragon was still weak and vulnerable. He thought about what could happen if someone discovered them here. Would people believe him? Would authorities arrive and take the creature away? The thought made his stomach twist, but he pushed it aside. Right now, all that mattered was keeping the dragon safe. As he rested against a wall, He began to notice small details he hadn't seen before. The dragon's scales glimmered in the dim light, reflecting shapes and shadows in strange patterns. Its eyes, intelligent and watchful, seemed to study him, almost as if it were trying to understand who he was and why he was helping. He realized that this was no ordinary animal. It was more than that. There was a consciousness there, a depth of thought that he couldn't begin to comprehend. And somehow it had chosen to trust him. The janitor felt a strange connection forming. He had spent his life helping people and cleaning up after them, often unnoticed and unappreciated. But now, with this creature relying on him, he felt a sense of purpose he had never experienced before. He wasn't just a janitor. He was a protector, a guardian in a moment that might change everything. It was a heavy responsibility, but it felt right that time passed slowly. The rain outside continued its relentless fall, but inside the warehouse, the janitor and the dragon began to settle. The creature rested its massive head on its front legs, watching him with cautious eyes. He sat cross-legged nearby, keeping an eye on it, speaking softly whenever it stirred. "We'll figure this out. I promise. You're safe here." Then something remarkable happened. The dragon, in a way the janitor could not have predicted, responded. It shifted slightly, leaning toward him as if seeking comfort. It let out a gentle rumble, almost like a purr, and nuzzled its head against the janitor's shoulder. The man froze, unsure if he was dreaming or if this was real. But it was real. The dragon, a creature from another world, had shown trust in the most intimate way possible. It wasn't just surviving. It was connecting. The janitor's heart swelled with emotion. He had never expected to share such a moment with anything, let alone a being so extraordinary. He realized that this night, this impossible circumstance, had changed him. It wasn't just about helping the dragon anymore. It was about forming a bond. A friendship that transcended fear, danger, and even worlds. He stayed like that for hours, the rain outside continuing. The warehouse silent, except for the soft sounds of the dragon breathing and the occasional drip from the leaking roof. He knew the road ahead would be difficult. Healing the dragon fully would take time, and he had no idea what challenges they would face. But for now, in this quiet, rainy night, they had found a fragile peace dot, and in that moment, the janitor understood something profound. Sometimes, the most remarkable things happen in the darkest, coldest nights when no one is watching and the world seems at its harshest. Acts of courage, kindness, and trust can emerge from the most ordinary people, and extraordinary bonds can form in the most unexpected places. The dragon rested its head again, closing its eyes slightly, and the janitor allowed himself to relax for the first time since the encounter began. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight they had survived together. And that survival, and the trust they shared, was the beginning of something neither of them could have imagined, a story that would change their lives forever. Morning came slowly, and with it, a faint light filtered through the cracks in the warehouse walls. The janitor had barely slept, sitting beside the dragon, keeping watch. Its breathing was steadier now, though the leg was still clearly injured. He stretched his stiff muscles and felt the ache from the previous night, but he barely noticed. The important thing was that the dragon had survived the night. That thought alone gave him strength. He looked at the creature lying before him. Its massive body sprawled across the cold floor. Its scales had dried in places, but they still glimmered faintly in the morning light. For the first time, he could see just how beautiful the dragon truly was. Its wings were folded carefully along its sides, the edges ragged from some unknown injury or battle. Its eyes, still watchful, followed every small movement he made. Somehow, he felt that it was more aware now, more connected to him after the night they had endured together. The janitor knew they couldn't stay in the warehouse forever. The place was isolated, but it was not secure. Someone could come by, or worse, the dragon's health could worsen without proper care. He needed a plan, and fast. But what kind of plan could work for a creature that clearly wasn't from this world? He had no map, no guide, nothing that could tell him how to take care of an alien being. He began to explore the warehouse quietly, looking for anything that might help. Old crates, some broken furniture, and discarded tools filled the space. He found a large, empty metal container and thought it could be used as a temporary bed. It was big enough to support some of the dragon's weight and would lift it slightly off the cold floor. Carefully, he coaxed the dragon onto the container using soft words to calm it. "It's okay. Just a little more. You'll be comfortable soon." The dragon hesitated, testing its broken leg, but then it allowed him to guide it. Once it was settled, it let out a long breath and lowered its head, closing its eyes slightly. The janitor sat nearby, observing it. He realized how deeply connected they had become. It was more than care now. There was trust, and there was a silent understanding. He had never felt anything like this before, but the practical side of the problem remained. The dragon needed real food, proper medical attention, and a safe place to heal. He had no idea where to find alien food, and medical help for something like this was impossible. He considered the forest outside the city, a remote area where the dragon could move freely without being seen. But even reaching it would be a challenge. The dragon could not walk far, and carrying it was nearly impossible. He sat back, thinking, trying to find a solution. The warehouse was dusty and quiet, but in that stillness, an idea began to form. Perhaps he could create a path of sorts, a place within the warehouse where the dragon could move without pain. He started gathering old blankets, crates, and pieces of wood, building small ramps and supports. It wasn't much, but it would allow the dragon to stretch its legs a little without risking further injury. As he worked, the dragon watched him carefully. It didn't move much, but its eyes followed every action, almost as if it understood that he was trying to help. Occasionally, it let out a small, low rumble, and he imagined it was some form of approval or communication. He spoke softly as he worked. "Almost done. Just a little more. You'll see. It'll be easier soon." Hours passed as he arranged the space, and by midday, he had created a small corner where the dragon could rest more comfortably and move without hurting itself. He felt a small sense of accomplishment. It was still far from perfect, but it was a start. The dragon, sensing the difference, lifted its head slightly and tested its leg, moving a little on the soft blankets he had laid. It was slow, but the progress was there. Hungry and tired, the janitor realized he needed to eat something himself. He opened an old food stash he had found in the warehouse, a few sandwiches, some fruit, and a bottle of water. As he ate, he kept an eye on the dragon. He could see the creature's eyes flick toward him occasionally, as if observing, learning, or just making sure he was still there. That silent observation made him feel less alone. Later, he tried speaking again, softly, about things that mattered little, but helped break the silence. "I don't know where you come from. I don't know how you got hurt, but I promise I'll keep you safe. You're not alone anymore." The dragon made a soft sound, almost like an answer, and nudged its head closer to him. The gesture, simple as it was, filled him with warmth and determination. By afternoon, he realized he needed more supplies. Water, food, something soft for bedding. It would be a long recovery. But leaving the dragon alone was dangerous. He considered his options and decided he could make a short trip to gather necessities, leaving the dragon only for a few minutes. He spoke gently to it before leaving. "I'll be back soon. Stay here and rest. Don't move too much, okay?" The dragon lowered its head, but didn't move, as if it understood the promise. The walk outside, even for a short while, felt strange after the intensity of the night and morning. The city was alive with noise cars, voices, the hum of normal life, but none of it seemed real anymore. His mind was focused entirely on the dragon, and every step he took was in preparation for helping it survive. He returned quickly with what he could find: water, some old blankets, and a few scraps of food that might work. Back in the warehouse, the dragon greeted him with a small movement, shifting its head slightly, almost like a nod. He smiled faintly, feeling an unexpected joy. He arranged the new blankets, topped up the water, and offered a few scraps of food. The dragon ate slowly, cautiously, but it ate. That small act of nourishment was a victory. It gave him hope that the creature could survive, that the night and morning of struggle had not been in vain. As evening approached, he realized that the bond between them had grown stronger. The dragon seemed calmer, more trusting, more aware of him, and he felt something inside himself shifting too. He had faced fear, exhaustion, and uncertainty, but he had not wavered. In helping this extraordinary creature, he had discovered a courage and patience he didn't know he possessed. The janitor sat back against the wall, watching the dragon settle down on the blankets. Its breathing was slower, steadier, more relaxed than it had been at any point in the previous day. He felt a sense of accomplishment, but also anticipation. The dragon was healing, but there was more ahead. There were challenges to face, risks to take, and discoveries to make. Yet for the first time, he felt ready. He wasn't just a bystander anymore. He was part of something remarkable. And in the quiet warehouse, with the evening light casting long shadows across the floor, he realized that the story of this night and the nights to come was not just about survival. It was about connection, trust, and the unexpected ways life could change when someone chose to care. For the janitor and for the dragon, the journey was far from over. But the bond they had formed, the trust they had built, and the hope they shared would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. And deep down, he felt that the remarkable part, the part that would change everything, was only just beginning. The next morning, the janitor woke to a calm silence in the warehouse. The dragon lay nearby, its body relaxed but still alert. The storm from the previous night had passed, leaving the air crisp and clear. Sunlight filtered through the dusty windows, casting soft beams across the floor. For the first time since the encounter, he felt a sense of hope that was stronger than fear. The dragon had survived the storm, the injuries, and the cold. Now, it was time to think about the next step. He observed the dragon carefully. The broken leg was still swollen, but the makeshift splint had held, and the creature seemed more comfortable moving it. Its breathing was steady, and the eyes that had been filled with pain and fear now held something else: trust. A bond had formed between them, one that went beyond words. The janitor felt it deeply, a connection he could not have imagined before that rainy night. He knew that staying in the warehouse was not a long-term solution. The dragon needed more space, safety, and perhaps even someone who understood it better. But there was another problem: the city. People would notice a creature like this, and if word got out, no one could predict what would happen. He needed a plan, a way to help the dragon without putting it in danger or drawing unwanted attention. As he thought, the dragon shifted slightly, moving its head toward him. It let out a soft, almost questioning rumble. The janitor realized it was ready to trust him even further. He spoke softly, in the calmest voice he could manage. "We're going to find somewhere safe, away from everyone. Somewhere you can heal." The dragon tilted its head, almost like it understood. That small gesture filled him with determination. He spent the morning preparing. Blankets, makeshift splints, and water were arranged carefully. He even managed to find some scraps of food that might sustain the dragon for the journey. The creature watched every movement, its eyes tracking him, following his hands, and responding to his voice. There was a silent understanding between them now. They were partners in survival. When he was ready, he approached the dragon slowly. "We're going to move a little today. Just a short distance. Can you manage that?" The dragon lifted its massive body carefully, testing its leg, and then lowered itself again. It seemed to nod, as if agreeing. He knew this was the moment. They had survived the storm and the injuries, but now the true test of trust and courage would begin. He guided the dragon out of the warehouse. The streets were quiet in the early morning, the city just beginning to wake. He moved slowly, making sure the creature didn't strain its leg. Each step was careful, measured, and exhausting. But as they moved, something extraordinary began to happen. People who saw them from a distance froze in awe. A creature so large, so majestic, and unlike anything from this world was moving through the city, not with fear, not with aggression, but with calm trust. No one approached. No one screamed. It was as if the dragon's presence commanded respect, and the janitor felt an unexpected pride. Here he was, an ordinary man, guiding an extraordinary creature through a world that seemed unprepared for it. And yet, it worked. Somehow, the bond they had formed protected them. People sensed the connection, even if they couldn't understand it. They reached the edge of the city, where the streets gave way to an open field. The dragon's eyes brightened as it saw the space ahead. He guided it to a patch of soft grass, carefully helping it settle. For the first time in days, the creature was free to move without fear of hard surfaces or obstacles. It stretched its wings slowly, testing the strength in its legs and muscles. The janitor watched, amazed. Each movement was cautious, but stronger than before. Then something remarkable happened. The dragon rose fully to its feet, testing its leg with careful steps. It turned its head toward him, eyes locking with his, and let out a deep, resonant sound, a sound that was not fear, not pain, but something like gratitude. The janitor felt it in his chest, a vibration that resonated with everything he had experienced over the past nights. It was as if the dragon was saying thank you in the only way it could. Encouraged, the janitor spoke softly. "You've come so far. I'm proud of you. You're stronger than I ever imagined." The dragon's wings lifted slightly, then lowered, a gesture that seemed almost like a bow. He realized then that this was more than survival. This was recognition, an acknowledgement of trust, effort, and courage on both sides. The day continued with slow progress. He helped the dragon explore the field, encouraging small movements and tests of strength. Each time it moved without pain, he felt a wave of relief and joy. It was no longer just an injured creature in need of help. It was a partner, a friend, and a reminder that extraordinary things could happen when one chose compassion over fear. As evening approached, the sky painted itself with warm hues of orange and pink. The dragon settled down on the grass, wings folded neatly, eyes calm. The janitor sat beside it, exhausted but content. For the first time, he felt that they were safe, that the immediate danger had passed. And in that quiet moment, he realized something profound. This experience had changed him. He had started. As a man whose life revolved around simple routines, unnoticed work, and the ordinary challenges of the world. But now, he had faced something impossible, something extraordinary. He had discovered courage, patience, and empathy in ways he never imagined. And in return, he had been given trust, connection, and the chance to witness a remarkable being heal and thrive. The dragon shifted slightly, leaning toward him as if seeking reassurance. He smiled and patted its massive head gently. "We did it together. You're safe now, and I'll always be here." The creature rumbled softly in response, a sound that spoke of understanding, comfort, and shared experience. It was the final proof of the bond they had formed, a bond that transcended fear, language, and even worlds. As night fell, stars appeared in the clear sky. The janitor lay on the grass nearby, exhausted but fulfilled, watching the dragon rest. He knew the road ahead would still have challenges. Healing would take time, and the world might not understand what they had experienced. But for now, they had survived, and they had each other. And that was enough. In the quiet of that night, with the dragon breathing steadily beside him, he realized the truth of something he had always believed, but never truly understood until now. Acts of courage, kindness, and trust could create miracles. They could build connections that defied fear, change lives in ways unimaginable, and remind even the most ordinary person that they were capable of extraordinary things. And so, under the stars, on a quiet field far from the city, the janitor and the dragon shared a moment of peace, trust, and triumph. A bond had been formed, stronger than pain, stronger than fear, stronger than any obstacle. And it was a reminder that sometimes the most remarkable events in life happen when you choose to act with kindness, when you decide to help someone or something in need, no matter how impossible it seems. That night, as they both drifted into rest, the world felt just a little larger, a little stranger, and infinitely more magical than it had the day before.